Hello, I'm Kamal Santamaria. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and finance. This week, Greece's hidden riches. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of oil and gas are believed trapped under the seabed around Greece, enough to wipe out the country's debt for good. But can they get to it? And who else is looking to get their hands on the energy bonanza? Also this week, just 38 years old, and he's running one of the world's biggest companies. Emilio Lozoya, the CEO of Pemex, tells us how he's shaking things up at Mexico's state-owned oil company. Plus, home to the world's tallest building and one of the most spectacular financial collapses. Can Dubai really regain its former glory, or will debt once again be its downfall? Hello everyone, we are starting this week in Greece, but with not a riot, strike or protest in sight. Instead, we're looking at how Greece may be able to put all of that behind it by tapping into its natural resources, namely the vast quantities of oil and gas believed buried under the seabed around its coastline. The thing is, it doesn't stop with Greece. Some experts say the recent discoveries of oil and gas in the Aegean Sea could turn the entire region into the new Gulf. But where there's oil, there's usually some sort of conflict. More on that in a moment. First, Jonah Hull on the chances of Greece striking it rich.
In Greece, good news is hard to come by, like the vast deposits of natural gas and oil that geologists believe lie beneath the seabed, just waiting to be found. A report by Germany's Deutsche Bank says that if proven, the hydrocarbon wealth under the sea off western Greece and south of Crete could eventually be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Greece's only energy extraction company currently produces just enough oil to stay afloat from a single existing field in the Aegean Sea. With help, things could be very different.
We need oil and gas companies to come to Greece, to work together with us. We know the country, we know the geology, so cooperations with foreign oil and gas companies would be very welcome to open up the deep parts of Greece and hopefully find the big oil and gas fields that would make a difference in the economy.
It's a tantalizing prospect. The energy that Greece currently pays a fortune to import could in fact exist naturally in abundant quantities, almost within the country's grasp.
A tantalizing prospect, but still years away from producing any tangible benefit.
2013 will be a critical year in the sense that we will have an indication following the reading, the explanation of the seismic recordings of the possible deposits, positions, magnitude, constitution.
Greek fortunes have been made by shipping magnates on the surface of the sea for decades. What lies beneath could one day make the whole country rich.
And this is what we think does lie beneath. At least $600 billion worth of gas and oil reserves. That's what Greece reckons it has. US Geological Society estimates about 22 billion barrels of oil in the Ionian Sea off western Greece, and then you can add another 4 billion or so on the other side in the northern Aegean Sea. So those are the Greek numbers. Turkey as well, it's got oil and gas in the area. Total reserves estimated at about 20 trillion cubic feet. There's an estimated 7 billion cubic feet of natural gas offshore of the Greek-held part of Cyprus. And in fact, this whole sort of eastern Mediterranean area that we're talking about, and that's going to involve Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Cyprus, holds an estimated 1.7 billion barrels of oil and 122 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Combine that actually, and that's enough to supply the world for a year. And Israel's in there as well with 33 trillion cubic feet of gas, which is worth about $670 billion. So it's complicated, you see, and lots of countries are involved, and there is potentially lots of money. So let's talk to William Engdahl about it all. He is a geopolitical analyst and author of the book Myths, Lies and Oil Wars. And it seems, William, almost a bit cruel for poor old Greece, isn't it? All this potential cash is sitting down there. But because of all these enforced austerity measures in Greece, really, at this point, Greece can't get anywhere near it, can it?
Mm. Well, one interesting thing as a background on the Greek financial crisis is the fact that in 2010, at the same time that Israel discovered a vast amount of offshore natural gas, the Leviathan field in the Levant Basin, similar discoveries were made offshore in Greece, in the Aegean. And interestingly enough, one of the key demands of the European Union and the International Monetary Fund for the Greek debt crisis is the privatization of the Greek national gas company. So the solution, the revenues from the gas flows that could be developed off of Greece's gas finds would be sufficient by certain estimates to entirely deal with the debt crisis. But it seems that certain people in the West have no interest in that.
So what about the territorial issues which come with it? You know, this whole Aegean Sea region is kind of reminding me of the South China Sea and all the disputes over who owns what there. Tell me how bad, if I can use that word, are the territorial disputes here?
It's pretty bad because it involves Turkey and Greece, it involves Cyprus. You're dealing, geophysically, you're dealing in the Mediterranean, in this huge basin, with one of the richest gas finds on the planet. It rivals the gas fields of Russia, and also of Qatar with the Persian Gulf gas fields between Qatar and Iran. So you're dealing with a huge geopolitical question of the natural gas potentials of the entire littoral states around the Aegean and the Mediterranean there, the Eastern Mediterranean. So it's a game-changing discovery that was made in 2010. And interestingly enough, I think the entire conflict over Syria is directly linked to some of these issues regarding the geopolitics of the energy discoveries in that region.
The way you describe it, William, it sounds to me like this is the type of geopolitical issue which is not going to be solved anytime soon. You know, it seems too sort of spread out, too political, too complicated, Syria and Israel in there as well. This will be a very tough one to solve, won't it?
Well, it will indeed, and there's a new element in the calculus that just came in a few days ago, and that was a 20-year exclusive agreement between Gazprom, the Russian state gas giant, and the government of Israel and the partners of the Israeli offshore gas fields in Tamar in the Levant Basin there to develop liquefied natural gas, and that is in a direct potential rivalry with Qatar, which has become a major player in the LNG market. And so ultimately you have a tension building up between Israel, Russia on the one side, and Qatar on the other side, as well as potentially Turkey, because the Erdogan government in Turkey wants Turkey to become the energy hub of that whole portion of the region. So that would be threatened by this Israeli-Russian cooperation on developing LNG, not only for the Asian market, China, Korea, Japan, but also for the European market. So it's the tensions are building, not vanishing. And the Russian LNG thing has potential implications for Russia's role in supporting the present regime in Syria against strong Western pressure, strong pressure from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, among others, and Turkey for a total regime change. And I think the gas pipeline agreement between Iran, Iraq, and Syria in 2011 is also a giant geopolitical factor in this whole calculus. So it gets enormously complex very, very rapidly, and it's going to be any man's guess what is going to finally shake out on this whole thing in the region.
Okay then, let's bring it back from the geopolitics then and look at the finances again, and I'd like to do that, you know, through the prism of Greece again. Okay. Is there anything Greece can do? You know, it feels like Greece is kind of the most worthy recipient of money in the region. Can it get at this cash?
Well, I suppose Greece the state can set up a new state natural gas company and begin exploiting it. I mean, they have the resources to do that. They had, and or if it's not been completely privatized yet, they can hold on to that company and resist the demands of the IMF and the European Union to privatize it. But I think Greece really has to take take the issue in hand and exercise its sovereignty and begin developing these resources for the European gas market. And there are certain vested interests that don't want to see that happen. So it's a difficult situation for Greece.
William Engdahl discussing the riches of the Aegean with us this week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.